11:43 p.m., 128th Street, Harlem. Cold air sits on the block. Steam rises from a grate and fades. A streetlight flickers once and stays on. Bumpy Johnson walks under it without hurry. Coat closed. Hat low. Hands empty. The sidewalk makes room like it recognizes him. 7 men step out from the corner. 7 to 1. Quiet feet. Heavy coats. Hands buried where guns live. Frank Lucas is the name behind it. New money with a sharp edge. He drops $50,000 on Bumpy's head like he's buying permission to cross into Harlem. The hunters show themselves quick. Red, Skull, Pretty Boy, Spider, Knuckles, Choir Boy, and the locksmith quiet hands, tools ready. They angle toward a stairwell apartment. One way up, one way down. Narrow hall. Weak bulb above the entry that can't hold steady. Everyone expected one ending. 7 go in. Bumpy doesn't come back out. But here's the thing, Bumpy doesn't get trapped in Harlem. He chooses where the trouble stands. What they didn't know, the building is already empty. No neighbors, no voices, no one to call the cops when the shouting starts. 13 minutes later, only one man steps back onto the sidewalk. Not running, not proud, missing a finger, blood dark on his sleeve. He keeps his hand jammed in his coat pocket. Inside is a folded note, creased, sharp appearance one. And that's the mistake people think survival means mercy. This is the story of the night Bumpy Johnson became untouchable. Harlem isn't a market, it's a boundary. Harlem hears things before it sees them. A numbers runner slips cash to a doorman and keeps walking. A kid on the curb watches too hard, pretending he isn't watching. A shop owner locks up early. A door that stays open all night closes without a word. Frank Lucas's pressure doesn't start with gunfire. But here's the thing, it still moves people. A bartender who used to nod at Bumpy's men suddenly looks past them. A driver who used to run clean starts taking longer routes and stopping in bright streets where nobody does business. Jaw tightens, eyes avoid. A small dealer gets pulled into a hallway and comes back out shaking, cheek split, pockets empty. No signature, no bragging, just fear delivered quiet. What they didn't know, Harlem doesn't have to be invaded to be controlled. It only has to doubt itself. That doubt spreads fast. A club owner starts paying twice, once to Bumpy, once to New Money. A runner starts asking who's really in charge. A preacher's wife crosses the street when she sees a strange car sitting too long. And that's the mistake outsiders think Harlem's silence means weakness. Harlem goes quiet when it's deciding what kind of answer to give. Shoes scuff, curtains twitch. Bumpy hears the pressure in what isn't said, in who won't meet his eyes, in who suddenly can't talk. He doesn't flare up, he measures it. Because in that moment, Frank isn't testing a man, he's testing the line, and Harlem is waiting to see if Bumpy holds it. Bumpy doesn't chase noise. He waits until it tells on itself. He sits in a back room behind a bar. One bulb hums overhead. Smoke hangs low. His fingers rest flat on the table. The men around him speak carefully, like the walls might repeat it. A chair shifts. A glass taps once. What they didn't know, Bumpy's code isn't violence first, it's position first. In Harlem, the man who controls the doorway controls the night. A runner slips in, coat damp, eyes wide, his throat bobs. "Mr. Johnson, it's real." Bumpy doesn't raise his voice. "How much?" "50,000. Bumpy blinks slow. Not shocked, just collecting it. Jaw sets. "How many he send?" "7. The runner swallows, and they ain't from here." But here's the thing, outsiders hunt like they're loud enough to win. Harlem hunts like it's already inside the room. Bumpy has been shifting his routes for days, stopping where he doesn't usually stop, watching reflections in glass, counting shadows that move wrong. That's enough. And that's the mistake. Frank's people think they found Bumpy's pattern. They don't know Bumpy is giving them one. Bumpy stands, calm. "Clear the building," he tells a quiet man near the door. No speech, no anger, just instruction. Doors click, footsteps fade, the air gets still. Because in that moment, Bumpy isn't preparing to survive. He's preparing to prove something. Frank Lucas sits in a back room that smells like smoke and metal. No windows, no warmth. A fan turns slow overhead. His finger taps once, then stops. Red stands closest, hungry. Skull leans back, smiling like this is easy. Pretty Boy keeps his coat neat like it matters. Spider watches corners. Knuckles flexes his hands. Choir Boy keeps his eyes down. The locksmith stays quiet, tools hidden, breath holds. But here's the thing. Frank isn't selling them danger. He's selling them permission. He looks at them like they're already on the job. 7 of you, he says. 1 of him. Nobody jokes. Nobody questions it. They like the math. Frank doesn't raise his voice. You bring me Bumpy Johnson, he says, or you don't come back. What they didn't know, Frank isn't paying for a body. He's paying for a story Harlem can't talk its way out of, a warning that spreads without ink. He nods at the locksmith. You open the door, Frank says. You make sure he can't run. The locksmith gives one small nod. Thumb checks a tool under his coat. He doesn't look excited. He looks ready. And that's the mistake. Everybody thinks the door is Bumpy's problem. Nobody thinks about the door behind them. A man swallows. Another shifts his feet. Frank leans forward, voice flat. No shooting outside, he says. No noise. Do it inside, then disappear. Skull's smile thins. Red's eyes sharpen. Because in that moment, Frank thinks Harlem works like money. Pay enough, and the street moves. 121A, M Stairwell Apartment, Harlem. The door opens without a knock. The locksmith works fast. Metal whispers. The lock gives up. 7 men slide inside. Shoes soft, breathing controlled, coats heavy with weight that isn't cloth. The hallway is narrow enough to force them into a line. Paint peels off the walls. The bulb above the entry flickers, steady for a second, then weak again. The air smells like cold plaster and old food. A step creaks. Red takes point. Skull stays close behind him. Pretty Boy watches the rear, like he expects trouble from behind. Spider keeps his eyes on door frames. Knuckles flexes his fingers slow. Choir Boy murmurs under his breath. The locksmith closes the door and tests it once. It holds. But here's the thing. Men like this don't fear rooms. They fear surprises. A footstep sounds upstairs. 1 step. Then nothing. Red freezes. Chin lifts. Where he at? No answer. They move again. Slow and careful. A gun shifts under a coat. A man swallows too loud. Breath catches. At the top of the stairs, the hallway turns tighter. Only one way forward. Only one way back. The walls pinch close. The light can't decide if it wants to stay on. What they didn't know. Bumpy picked this place because it won't let them spread out. It forces them to wait their turn. A door sits at the end of the hall. Closed. Quiet. Skull leans in close to Red. Open it, he whispers. Red raises his hand to knock. The bulb above them flickers hard, then steadies weak again. 12:04 a.m., same hallway. The bulb hangs on, weak but alive. Shadows sit in the corners and don't move. Red knocks once. Hard. The sound fills the hall and dies there. A voice answers from inside. Low, calm. You lost? The men freeze, like they didn't expect the room to speak back. Pretty Boy shifts his weight. Spider's eyes dart. Knuckles licks his lips. Choir Boy's whisper stops. The locksmith's hand drifts toward his tools. Breath tightens. Red steps closer to the door. Bumpy Johnson, he says. We got business. Bumpy doesn't open it. He doesn't raise his voice. I know who you are, he says. You don't belong here. But here's the thing. Bumpy isn't trying to scare them. He's measuring them. Skull speaks over Red's shoulder, voice thin and sharp. Frank Lucas says hello. A pause. Then Bumpy again, calm as ever. Frank Lucas don't speak in Harlem. What they didn't know, those words aren't anger. They're a decision. The locksmith steps forward, tools ready. Thumb checks the pick. He leans toward the knob. Bumpy speaks once more, quiet. If you open that door, only one of you leaves. Red laughs, but it comes out dry. His hand tightens on his gun. Knuckles shifts closer. Pretty Boy looks back toward the stairs like he's already thinking escape. And that's the mistake. They think the threat is on the other side of the door. The bulb flickers. This time, it doesn't come back right away. 12:05 a.m. The bulb gives one last weak blink. Then it dies. Darkness drops into the hallway. Breathing gets loud. A shoe scrapes wrong. Somebody whispers a curse. Light! Red snaps. Skull's voice cuts sharp. Don't shoot! But here's the thing. Men don't get smarter in the dark. They get faster. The locksmith's hands move on the knob. Tool in, twist, a slip, metal ticks. He swears under his breath. Knuckles bumps him, impatient. The line compresses. 7 men stacked in a hallway that can't fit 7 decisions. What they didn't know, the hallway is the weapon. It forces them forward. It won't let them spread out. It won't let them breathe. Red shoves the door. It cracks open. A hand comes out of the black and clamps his wrist. Red grunts, surprised. His gun arm jerks sideways. A shot erupts into the wall. Plaster bursts. The sound is violent in the tight space. "Idiot!" Skull barks. Spider panics and fires toward the noise. The muzzle flashlights faces for half a second, wide eyes, wrong angles, men too close together. Pretty Boy jerks back and slams into Knuckles. Knuckles stumbles into the locksmith. The locksmith drops his tool. Metal clinks on wood. Bumpy moves without speaking. He doesn't swing wild. He uses the bottleneck. He uses their panic. He uses the fact they can't see where their own bodies are. A shoulder hits the wall. A man goes down hard. Knees slap wood. Someone claws for the railing and misses. "Hold your fire," Skull yells again. Another shot cracks. Friendly fire. A howl of pain. A body folds in the hallway and blocks the path. The men behind him trip over him. The line turns into a pile. And that's the mistake. They brought numbers into a space that turns numbers into weight. A gun skitters across the floor. Bumpy steps on it once and keeps moving. His hand finds a throat in the dark. He presses hard. The man chokes quiet. Red tries to wrench free. Bumpy twists his wrist the wrong way. Bone pops. Red's gun drops. Red's breath breaks into a wet sound. Skull shoves forward, desperate, trying to climb over bodies. He swings blind. His fist hits Spider's jaw. Spider falls back and cracks his head against the wall. No sound after that. The darkness holds. Men breathe like they're drowning. Then a faint click. The bulb comes back weak, flickering like it regrets it. The hallway is wrecked. Bodies sprawled wrong. Blood dark on the boards. A gun near the wall still smokes. Only one man is upright. Choir Boy. He's shaking hard, one hand raised empty. His other hand presses his coat pocket like he's holding his ribs in place. His eyes lock on Bumpy in the doorway. Bumpy stands there, calm, untouched, deciding. He steps aside. Choir Boy limps past him. Not as mercy. As a delivery. 12:09 a.m. The hallway stays quiet. The bulb flickers overhead, weak and tired. Smoke hangs low. A gun lies near the wall, forgotten. Bumpy steps over bodies without looking down. He doesn't rush. He checks faces, quick, certain. Knuckles is out cold. Pretty Boy isn't moving right. Red is folded against the wall, eyes open, not blinking. Skull wheezes once, then stops. Spider lies twisted near the stairs. The locksmith is on his side, tools spilled like loose teeth. But here's the thing, Harlem doesn't celebrate in the room. It cleans up. A quiet man appears at the stairwell landing, eyes steady, no questions. Bumpy gives one small nod. They move fast. No shouting, no panic. Hands grab coats, drag weight. A door opens, then shuts again. Footsteps soften so the building doesn't wake. The street stays asleep on purpose. What they didn't know, this is how power lasts. Not with noise, with control. Bumpy crouches near the baseboard and reaches into the corner where the light doesn't reach, his fingers close around something small. A bullet casing. Warm brass appearance too. He pockets it and stands. Outside, Choir Boy's steps hit uneven on the stairs. One hand stays jammed in his coat pocket like he's holding proof. Bumpy watches him go without chasing. 12:31 a.m., Frank Lucas's back room. Choir Boy stumbles through the door like his legs forgot how to work, coat half opened, face wet with sweat, breathing short and ugly. One hand stays buried in his pocket. Frank Lucas looks up from the table and doesn't move at first. His eyes scan the room behind Choir Boy, waiting for the rest of his crew. They don't come. But here's the thing, silence answers before words do. Frank's jaw tightens once. "Where they at?" he asks. Choir Boy tries to speak and chokes on it. He swallows hard. His eyes won't meet Frank's. "Gone," he whispers. "All of 'em." Frank stands up slow, like standing too fast might crack something. "7 men," he says, And you the only one walking? Choirboy nods once. Small. Shaking. He let me, he says. He said you needed to hear it. What they didn't know, Frank doesn't fear a dead man. He fears a man who chooses who lives. Frank's voice drops colder. What did he say? Choirboy pulls his hand out of his pocket. His finger is missing. Blood dark on the sleeve. He doesn't look at it. He reaches past it and puts something on the table. A folded note, creased sharp, stained at the edge appearance 3. Frank stares at it like it might move. Choirboy's mouth trembles. Then he forces the words out, exactly as he heard them. Harlem doesn't pay tribute to strangers. The room holds its breath. Frank's men wait for rage. Frank reads the note without touching it. Then his eyes lift, slow. And that's the mistake. He thought money was the loudest thing in Harlem. Frank swallows once, hard, and sits back down. Some say the story got cleaner every time it was told. Years later, a witness claimed there were details nobody outside that stairwell ever knew. Whether it's truth or legend, Harlem kept the ending the same. Frank Lucas put $50,000 on Bumpy Johnson's head. 7 men went hunting. 1 man came back missing a finger. Bumpy didn't celebrate. He didn't walk the block like he won something. He moved the same way he always did, quiet, steady, watched. Because in that moment, Harlem didn't need noise. It needed certainty. A door stayed open that should have closed. A runner stopped paying twice. A bartender nodded again. A strange car that used to idle too long found another street. People started breathing normal. Shoes scuffed. Eyes lifted. Frank's money didn't disappear. It just stopped working here. Bumpy's lesson wasn't, I can kill you. His lesson was, I decide what survives. Outsiders keep making the same mistake. They think Harlem is corners and cash. They don't understand its loyalty and memory. If you want more Bumpy Johnson stories like this, hit subscribe. And in the comments, if you were Frank Lucas, do you send more men or do you walk away?